Thanks for joining us on episode 1618 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
Hey people, my name is Andrew Brummer. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to take ownership of your life is key. And one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend Scott Mader. So in whatever version of faith you follow, to the listener, putting other people first is probably one of the most noble things you can do in your life, to sacrificing yourself to the benefits of other people. And that could be jobs, it could be speaking opportunities, it could be being in line first as taking the last crumb off the table, whatever it is.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode, I interview Andrew Brummer. I ask Andrew about why he chose radical service over survival. I also ask Andrew about a couple of his books, and Andrew also shares with you how he helps people break free from whatever is holding them back. I have a great book that's been out for a while now called Inspired Living. Assemble the puzzle of your calling by mastering your time, your talent, and your treasures. You can find out more about that book over at inspiredlivingbook.com. It'll take you to a page where there's information and you can sign up to get some mailings about it as well as purchase a copy there. I'd love to see you get a copy and share with me how it impacted your world. At a career pivot with minimal local connections, Andrew chose radical service over survival. Drawing on his extensive cross-industry experience, he emerged as a fractional executive and mentor, offering free coaching to professionals from Iraq to Botswana, India to Venezuela, USA to Australia. As a business polygraph, a multiplier, and a solutionist, Andrew transforms fractional leadership teams and drives excellence across startups and small companies. His people-first philosophy combines authentic vulnerability with strategic precision, creating environments where teams thrive and leaders flourish. Beyond the boardroom, Andrew lives with intention, orchestrating a 35,000 light Christmas spectacular, crafting live edge furniture, and successfully breeding marine life, climbing Kilimanjaro, ballroom dance, and even dabbling at stunt work. This diverse tapestry of experiences fuels his ability to connect with leaders across industries and cultures. As a two-time Arthur, Andrew brings both hard-won wisdom and infectious enthusiasm to every engagement. He ignites potential, transforms perspectives, and leaves lasting impact on everyone he encounters. Andrew is where operational excellence meets human connection, creating ripple effects that extend far beyond any single conversation or engagement. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate being here. Appreciate you taking time for me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you giving me some time and giving the listener some of your valuable insights. So I talked a lot in the intro about some of the work you've done, some of the experiences you've had. I still like the $35,000 light Christmas spectacular. That's just one of those. You hear that and you go, okay, I need to know more about that. Yeah. But we'll talk about that some as we go. But I've also learned that intros and things like that, bios, never really tell the whole story. So take us back in time a little bit and tell us a little bit more about your journey, your path, and what has brought you to the point where this is the message you feel yourself called to put out into the world.
Originally South African. I moved here in 2003. In South Africa, I was very involved in community service and support and volunteering and helping people. I ran 2 companies in South Africa, arrived in the US, and planted myself. And then I was in the visa program. So it's indentured, you're paid indentured servitude, where you have to live your time through the process to be able to get to. And then I got to citizenship. I did what most people do in their life, is I got comfortable in my career. I've had the privilege of living a full life. I've done everything from climbing Kilimanjaro to off-roading, figured out how to, I did youth group work, ballroom dance. I mean, there's so many things I've done. I had the privilege of a very, very rich life. I've had a lot of life coaches, transitional life coaches. So not one coach that's lasted a long time. I had a lot of life coaches. And then I did what I knew was wrong, but at the time it was comfortable, so you don't really shine a spotlight on yourself. And I got comfortable, and that put me in a complacent position where I was at the mercy of situations around me, and then real world happened. And then I kind of faced the reality check of where it's at. And I went on an immediate pivot when that reality check happened and reverted back to myself as I was when I originally came to the US. And that was, you own your mindset, you own tomorrow, you own your actions, and don't be the victim of yesterday. Just figure out what you're going to do moving forward.
One of the things I've said this before on the show, but I want your take on it. You just mentioned you got complacent. And I like to highlight for people, there's a difference between complacent and contentment, in terms of the emotion. Complacent kind of has the connotation that you just shared of, that's not a positive thing, but being content is not necessarily negative. For you, when you hear those two words, what do you think of as maybe the difference in your life?
I would say I was complacent and content. I was in a good income, a good job. I'm very good at what I do. I'm great at affecting people's lives. And I just got, maybe the better word is I got comfortable with things that are around me, and then stopped looking after my own career trajectory and the things around me that I know need to be put in place to make sure you don't mess up and that you're okay tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. You've also written a couple of books. Tell me about those. Where did those fall in the journey?
Yeah, so Leading Magnanimously was the second book launched, but first book written, and that one went through a publisher. That is it really is my love story, my work love story. It is about how do you build a team that is so in love with one another that they cannot wait to get to work together face to face on the Monday morning. How do you build a team like that? And what do you get out of having built a team like that? Kind of what is the echo? What do you live? What do you experience as a result of that? So that book is a textbook guide. It's a handbook guide of how to help people. What are the behavioral patterns? I try to make it, there's theory in it, but I try to make it very practical and things you can do today as a leader, as a manager, and how do you evolve yourself into building this team? So very hands-on practical guide. The second book was You Decide, and that is a book of transition. So in 24, when I faced my transition and had the discussion, I had to decide, what do I do? Do I allow myself to become a victim of consequence? Or I started living life and fixing and learning how to network and meet people. And I had the privilege of meeting thousands of people. I've met so many people. I've been so blessed and so privileged with the people that I've met and the people that have impacted my life that I didn't know 20 months ago, 21 months ago. It's been such a privilege. And in September of 24, I was training people on the method because I'd cracked LinkedIn. I'd cracked how to build a network. I'd cracked getting people to engage with me. And everyone is curious I say everybody, I mean, hundreds of people that I met. And they were curious, and I started training them. And then I had people saying, well, you're giving your knowledge away. Why don't you just write the book and give the book away so you don't have to waste your time a consumer and have these long one-on-ones with everyone. Just write the book and give the book away. So I did that. And that was the book You Decide. And both of them are meant to be practical, hands-on, page turners, page highlighters, dog leaf the book, and then come back to it and use and rinse and repeat. And both books are getting great reviews, great commentary, practical, hands-on. People that are reading them, they're written so simply in such a practical way, such a real life way that people are just learning from them and just absorbing.
So one of the things I like to highlight on the show is sort of the intersection between our particular faith journey, whatever that might be, or spiritual walk, and our life, and how there's kind of sometimes a feedback loop, positive or negative, between those two kind of components in our life. What has your faith journey been like?
Very focused on looking after other people, very focused on doing right, living a right life, not a perfect life, just a life that emulates what it means to look after other people. I live a life of serving other people and putting myself last in the queue of asks and do's and takes and gives. So in whatever version of faith you follow, to the listener, putting other people first is probably one of the most noble things you can do in your life, to sacrificing yourself to the benefits of other people. And that could be jobs, it could be speaking opportunities, it could be being in line first as taking the last crumb off the table, whatever it is. And just living a life like that. So in whatever way, and then that grows on itself, right? It grows into people because you lead and you live by example. And then that starts echoing itself with people around you. And it gets to the bottom of, you mean what you say what you mean, and you do what you said you're going to do, and you look after other people and you help other people in every way you can. And when you do that with the understanding and absolute acceptance that you are not going to get anything back, so you don't even ask for anything, you just serve and you give, it is fascinating to see the rewards that come back. It is unbelievable. The people I've met, the things that have happened to me as a consequence of meeting people that I should never have met, the things they've done for me that they should never have done for me. They didn't know me. I mean, I've met people that put their careers, their names, their reputations on the line just because you've demonstrated persistently that you serve and pay it forward. So it is massively reciprocal. And I think it's a healthy lifestyle to live a faith-based lifestyle in whatever faith you follow. Live it in the diligence and the service of people and do right by others, and it will come back. And everything I am, everything I've written in the book just speaks to it. In the You Decide, there's a timeline book where you can see the people's lives. I created a timeline map of people that affected my life and what happened as a result of that. So it's very, very, very real.
Relationship and connection is so important, I think, to us as human beings. And a lot of times people see those relationships as transactional, especially the place of work. You know, you pay me, I show up and I do something, I mean, that's kind of the whole deal, right? That's what it is. Yeah. And you talk about it a little differently than that. So share a little bit about how you see relationship and community when it comes to, especially again, when it comes to work, but just in general.
Yeah. So just to put some numbers down, to put some credibility to this, my LinkedIn network has grown by about 7,000 people over the last 20 odd months. Most of those are just connections. They're people that have linked with me, have connected with me. I may have spoken with a number of them, probably about 800-900 of them, but there was no symbiotic connection with the person. There was no echo, mirror, reflection, and it kind of, you meet the person, but it doesn't go anywhere. Out of those 7,000 people I met, there are 600 of them that know me by name. They know me, and I didn't know them 20 months ago. And those are people that relationships are developing with. So brand new people, and I'm developing relationships with them. There are 100 of those 600 people who have done something for me, or I've done something for them. In other words, we've affected one another's lives in some form or fashion. That they know where I'm at. They have a good sense of what I'm doing, what I need, what I'm trying to accomplish. Out of that 100 people, there are 16 people that I did not know 20 months ago that have done more for me in the last 20 months than nearly anyone has done in my career. And the important thing is I didn't know them 20 months ago. And that's through meeting them. So the important thing is to find those 16 people. I won't bore you with the mathematics of the ratio, but there were probably about 16,000 people, 17,000 people I had to reach out to through LinkedIn, through networking, face-to-face, coffees, lunches, beers, just networking. I had to touch that amount of people to find 16 people that changed my life. So that's a tough ratio, right? 16 out of 16,000, that's a tough ratio. Then you say, okay, but there are 600 people that know me by name. They didn't know me 20 months ago, that will take a call from me, do an introduction for me, will engage with me, and do a reference for me. There are people that are going to help move me forward, and I will help them move forward. And that's a better ratio. So there are a lot of people you connect with and meet. They're just acquaintances. And I used to take it personally when people didn't like me. And it took me, when they didn't want to engage with me, it took me quite a while to get over that, just to say it doesn't matter. I just, just like I don't like some people just don't like me, and it doesn't matter.
Oh, no, everyone should like you just because you don't like other people. I mean, come on.
so moving on in with that. And then there are people, I've got some amazing friends, some beautiful people that I've met that have helped and worked with me. Just fascinating people that I would never have met if I didn't take a step on the wild side and start networking and following through what I wrote in the book, You Decide, and start meeting people. There are people I really have no right to know that I now know and could call them friends.
Yeah. And I think sometimes, like you said, you look at the numbers and you think, oh, that's intimidating, but it's really not when you stop and think about it in terms of there's a logic to it. Again, I've got people on Facebook and LinkedIn that I've never talked to, but I'm connected with them through maybe a conference that we went to, and it's like, oh, let's connect on LinkedIn. And then,
I look at in 24, when I started the pivot, my LinkedIn was 120 people, 130 people, somewhere around there. 1,200 people. Out of that 1,200 people, there were only about 10 people. I'm just rounding, but just take a rough number. There was about 10, 15 people out of that number that were connected, whose lives I'd impacted, whose careers I'd touched in life. There were only about 10 people that responded and were in any position to do anything for me. And that's a horrific number. And we're all like that. I mean, that's not a me thing. That's a you thing. It's everyone.
Right.
It's everyone I've spoken to where we get dormant. We get comfortable. We grab a business card, LinkedIn contact, link with them, and they just sit there. We don't contact. So now I try and make a concerted effort to stay in touch with people, to communicate with them, to tell them what I'm doing, talk about the next update to the book. So there's some people whose LinkedIns I fill up, and other people, they'll hear from me every now and then. But the key is recognizing that there are some people you're meant to know, and it's comfortable and good to know and important to know, and other people you don't know. And just, I started this 20 months ago, and look at what I did in 20 months. Can you imagine what the average person can do if we started doing this? If I'd started doing what I did now in 20 months, if I started that 15 years ago, can you imagine the way in which my life will have been impacted? If I had not allowed myself to get comfortable, if I had actually started then what I now know to be a vital path of literally like drinking air, just imagine what my network, imagine where I would be if I'd just taken the time to slowly expand my network and meet people over 15 years. Can you imagine the downstream effect of that? Lives you will have affected and lives that will have affected you. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think how deep that goes.
Mm-hmm. You've talked several times about going through a transition, and, another word for transition is change, and most of us don't like transitions. We don't like change. But I also think a lot of times, especially when we feel like it was put upon us or, came upon us from outside, we hold on to a lot of emotions about it. We hold on to a lot of frustrations about it. We have blind spots about it. What's your take on dealing with transition and change?
Scott, it's mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like changes. It's really funny. We don't like change, but as a result of being adaptable to change, we dominate planet Earth, right? So you got to laugh at the irony that's inside that. For me, as you enter change, it's all mindset. You can choose to fight the change. You can choose to be the victim of what caused the change. You can choose to be the victim inside the change, saying, woe is me, this is not going to work, I can't do this. And that's fine. I just have a courtesy of my mom. I have a firm belief that you wake up every morning, and what happens today, doesn't matter what happened yesterday, but what happens today is your choice. You, today, when you wake up, and I put my right foot out of bed first, when you wake up and you put your foot down on the ground, you get to decide whether you allow yesterday to affect today. Yesterday doesn't naturally and automatically affect today. So it's all mindset. And the same is true with change. You can embrace change. And mindset doesn't mean changing everything about you. is just saying, I'm going to do this small thing and that thing is going to change, like waking up 15 or 30 minutes earlier. That's mindset. It's getting your head into the game and saying, I'm going to change. I'm going to do something different. So when it comes to transition, I went through that terrible night, and the next day woke up, did my budget, looked at the family, said, let's pack everything we don't need in the house just in case things go completely wrong. And the next day I was out there getting moving, figured out, started writing a book and got the world going, volunteering and everything. It's for me, it's mindset. It's just get your head in the game, accept something is happening, accept the worst case scenario, deal with it, accept that that could be true. Now, how do you have to behave? How do you have to live? What do you have to do to avoid that worst case scenario from being true?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is where you believe the zone of control is. Is the zone of control inside you, or is it outside of you? Because if it's outside of me, well, ain't nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
And again, some of that is your perception as opposed to the reality.
Spot on.
You always have a choice, but you don't always feel like you have a choice. But you always have a choice.
You do. I mean, you literally, when you wake up in the morning, your brain is fresh. You may be stressed, you may be tired, you may not have slept, but how you react to the balance of that day from the moment you open your eyes is up to you. What happened yesterday doesn't define your today. It can influence today if you allow it. I'm not saying it makes yesterday better and makes the problem go away, but how it affects your today, that's your choice.
Yeah, but do you learn from it, or do you wallow in it? Do you do you blame, or do you accept and move on? Those are choices. I use a really extreme example when I'm working with clients that, I mean, it's extreme, but it's realistic. I ask them, I'm like, if I put a gun to your head and said, I'm going to shoot you if you don't do something. Okay. Yes. I said, is there anything I could say, you have to do this? And you would look at me and go, you're just going to have to shoot me. And everyone I've ever asked that question goes, oh, absolutely. There's a few lines, there's lines where I'd be like, dude, I'll do that. No problem. Just don't shoot me. But there's other lines where it's like, I ain't doing that. You're just going to have to shoot me. Yeah. I'm like, well, that proves that you always have the choice, because even in that extreme situation, there's something,
Yeah. No,
I think we all do. We all have that item on our list where it's like,
and
nope.
It's very human to fall into victim mode, right? It's very, that's not anyone's weakness. That's very human for us to fall into that. Woe is me. I'm here because somebody else put me here. I'm here because of the world. It's very human for us to have that sensation. So for those who are living it, it's just normal. It's just, you got to look in the mirror and say, how do I get in front of this thing so that I dictate its consequence on me and not me living the consequence of the energy it's creating in me?
Well, and sometimes it's even just a feeling of, I think it allows us to, quote, conserve energy. Because if somebody else did it to me, well, now I don't have to do anything. I could just kind of sit in place. And unfortunately, that's real.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to recognize that we all face things that are terrible.
Absolutely.
Right. There are horrific things that we all face. So I'm not condoning any of that.
Or excusing.
I'm not condoning that we go through our commiserations and our stresses. And I'm not saying don't do any of that. There's a difference between living something that's happened that's terrible to you, whether it's abuse, mental, physical. There are terrible things that happen to us, and a lot of us have been through our fair share of that. It's whether you decide to remain in a perpetual state of that negative energy. That's where you have to decide to move yourself forward. Mm-hmm. You have to lean into it and recognize that while you've had a terrible experience, you have to lean in and decide, how do I move this forward? Because nobody else is going to. Everybody else will just start avoiding you. You have to decide, how are you going to lean forward to make a difference?
Yeah. Forgiveness, acceptance, these sorts of things doesn't mean approval. Right. It doesn't mean it was right. It doesn't mean it was good. It doesn't mean I approve of it.
So I want to be very careful that I don't dismiss the challenges that people have been through. Because I've been through my fair share, and I don't want to dismiss that. It's just, to live in the perpetual state of that is where there's a fault.
So how do you help folks move out of that state and kind of break free from what's keeping them stuck?
So I don't know whether it's just through the learning of life that I've learned the skill, or how I engage, but For me, it's about allowing a person to be heard, distinctly heard, to actually listening to them, not going into a discussion with a predisposed notion that I can help fix this problem, just letting them be heard, letting them cry, let them scream, preferably not hit, but there are weird things that happen.
If it does, get some pads.
But give the person the space and the humility, the grace, but be firm in how you help that person move themselves forward. And it's not placating it. It's not facilitating victim. It's just being human and allowing people to have some tough discussions and to walk out of that with no judgment, to love the person as they are, as they present themselves, as they've lived life, and help them tomorrow to wake up and meet you like nothing's happened, and just treat them as human beings. Don't placate the situation. Don't put them in victim mode. Just help them nudge themselves forward, because there's no big step that solves these problems, right? They're all small, tiny, small steps.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no magic wands, unfortunately.
It's like the speed of trust, right? Stephen Covey wrote, says, there's no big thing that creates trust. They're all small micro steps that we all take with one another that eventually we just realize that trust exists. And if you say, why do you trust that person? You can't really put a finger on it. You just do. It's just been a journey that's earned into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's why it's so easy to damage trust and hard to earn it back once it's damaged, because we don't. It's kind of an intangible that we sense and feel, but don't really define. Yeah. So I've got a few questions that I like to ask all of my guests, but before I ask you those, is there anything else about your books, You Decide and Leading Magnanimously, or your journey, the work that you do today, that you'd like to share with the listener?
So I think the world's in a crazy place right now, right? We're living in extremes and isolation. We're living in worlds of non-communication. We live in the world that open discourse is no longer acceptable. We live in a world where if there is open discourse, there's consequence for that open discourse. It's an unhealthy place. So for those of you that are awake, for those of you who have open minds, and for those of you who can have open discourse and are focused at other people, in everything you do, figure out how you can plant seeds that will grow trees that you will never sit under, in everything you do, whether that's working at a food bank, whether it's coaching, whether it's driving people around, whether it's doing elderly care, infirm care, no matter what it is. Just find a way to plant seeds that will grow trees that you will never sit under, you'll never recognize, you'll never understand, and you can never gain from. You can never benefit from.
So my brand is Inspired Stewardship, and I kind of run things through this lens of stewardship. And yet I've discovered over the years that word is one that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when you hear the word stewardship, what does that word mean to you?
For me, it is the method, or how one behaves, acts, and deals and treats people. It's a stewardship of other people's souls, lives, approaches. It's the stewardship of their care and love. For me, that stewardship is in everything you do. Be very careful in what you say, what you say and what you do, because you just don't know what you say and what you do and what that downstream effect will be on that person, positive or negative. So for me, stewardship is very focused at the person you're engaged with, the person standing in front of you right now at this very minute, and in 5 minutes time, then that person, and in an hour's time, then that person. Is stewardship of that person, that you can make them feel like the most valuable, most heard, most relevant, most important person that they can ever be. Because if you can do that for that person and it becomes a pattern of behavior, then they will do it downstream for other people, and the downstream consequence, the downstream effect is great.
So this is my favorite question that I like to ask everybody. Imagine for a moment that I could invent this magic machine. And with this machine, I was able to transport you from where you are today into the future, maybe 150, maybe 250 years. But through the power of this machine, you were able to look back and see your entire life, see all of the ripples, all of the connections, all of the impacts that you've left behind. What impact do you hope you've left in the world?
Sure. I've been asked this question a few times. What do I want my legacy to be? What do I want that downstream to be? And my answer is a little bit anecdotal. My answer is to live today in absolute no regard of my legacy, but to live today in the most impactful way that I can live it. And in whatever way that affects downstream, may it play out the way the world desires it to play out. But for me, it really is about living today, caring today, loving today. When I pass on, and I challenge anyone, if a legacy, how important is your legacy? And I would say if legacy is important to you, who has passed either as a family, a relative, a friend in the last 3 months, 5 months, 6 months? And what did they do that you remember? What was their legacy? And the problem is most of us don't remember. Most of us don't know. It takes 3 months for us to move on from people. You have to have done something really significant for a legacy to last. So the argument is, and I read it in a book, the argument is live your life today like legacy is irrelevant and positively affect people as widely and as pervasively as you can. Make a difference in as many lives as you can in the way that those lives need to be affected. Without agenda, without payment in return, just help, serve, look after, be kind, be generous, be graceful, be loving, and help people find a different tomorrow. That helps them be something different tomorrow in their definition of what they want to be. So I don't think I directly answer your question, Scott. I think I kind of skirt it and I evade it. But for me, really, it honestly is living today to the maximum of I can. Well, one of the things I battle with is saying no. When somebody asks for help, I really battle saying no. And I'll help people in whatever way I can, no matter what the cost is to me. I'll help people as much as I can. And that has consequence to it, and I understand the consequence. But for me, the act of helping and caring for people around me is much more important than what happens to me tomorrow.
So what's on the roadmap? What's coming next as you continue on your journey?
Yeah. So hopefully I continue to meet some amazing people, some amazing startups, some amazing founders, some amazing executives, some amazing people in universities. I hope that my continued volunteer around the world in coaching and mentoring stays pervasive, stays attractive, stays engaged. And professionally, I look forward to a speaking tour. I'm creating a speaking roadmap. I've got another 4 books I want to write. One is halfway through, and it is called Hope is a Powerful Emotion. I got a very busy 26 ahead of me. Very exciting 26, and the most exciting is getting my speaking tour up and running.
You can find out more about Andrew Brummer over at andrewbrummer.com. Of course, I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well, so you can find it there. Andrew, anything else you'd like to share with the listener?
No, just find your new tomorrow, right? Tomorrow is on you. Shawshank Redemption says it well. It says get busy living or get busy dying. So get busy living, figure out your purpose, get yourself going. Your purpose is not just work. It is life, it's family, it's hobbies, it's you. It's what you love yourself for, what you do that gives you purpose. Get out there and define your tomorrow. Because if you don't define it, somebody else is defining it and you're living in their shadow. So get out there, figure out what your tomorrow, what your purpose, what your value is, and live toward it. Live purposely toward what you define it to be. Don't wait for it to accidentally happen, because hope is a powerful emotion and it can disappoint heartedly.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.